что-то, что-нибудь, кое-что, and что-либо all mean something. So we have one word in English, but 4 words in Russian. In fact, it's not even that simple. We can start declining all these words here in all the cases, and we obtain a very long list of possible translations. But don't get overwhelmed. In this video, I'll be explaining to you when to use each of these versions of something, what the differences between all of them are, and how not to get confused. And I'll be doing so with plenty of relevant examples. Stay tuned. Hello, welcome to Culture TV. In this video, we'll be looking at these indefinite pronouns, so words like something, someone, somewhere, and so on. Now, we've already done a lesson on these words in lesson 25 of our online program, Let's Speak Russian. But we're going to build on that today. We're going to take a more intermediate or even advanced approach to these words. And we're going to try to elucidate these differences or this confusion related to these words. And this will apply to not just something, but also someone, somewhere, sometime. We'll look at that towards the end of the video. So the first thing to note is that кое-что is a synonym of что-то, and что-либо is a synonym of что-нибудь. And in fact, кое-что and что-либо are very rarely used, and you don't need to worry about them that much. The key thing to get your head around is the difference between что-то and что-нибудь. That is most important. So, что-то is used by us as the speaker to convey that we don't know, we have no idea about, or indeed that we don't remember any detail about the something that we're referring to. So it's this idea of the something being unknown. There's a question mark involved here. It's kind of like a mystery. Whilst что-нибудь is used when we, as the speaker, don't care, we can't be bothered, we don't mind what this something is or will be. Now, with что-нибудь, you might ask, well, that looks like anything in English. So, does this mean anything in Russian? No, not quite. We have a separate word for anything in Russian, and that will be хоть что. Хоть что. For example, you could say, что бы ты хотел на обед? Что бы ты хотел на обед? What would you like for lunch? Хоть что. Anything. So it's not quite anything. We would still translate it as something. So let's have a look at a few example sentences. Я бы хотел что-нибудь съесть. Я бы хотел что-нибудь съесть. I would like to eat something, or I would like something to eat. Now we're using что-нибудь here to show that we, as the speaker, I in this case, don't care what this something will be. I'm just hungry and I would like something, whatever it may be, to eat. I'm not bothered about it. I don't mind. I just want to eat. That's the fact here. That's what's most important. Okay? Or equally, он хочет что-нибудь выпить. Он хочет что-нибудь выпить. He would like something to drink. Now, do bear in mind that выпить is probably not the best word to use here because it has negative connotations. It is associated with drinking alcohol and getting drunk. So you could say here, он хочет что-нибудь попить. Yeah, so the perfective of пить would be попить in this case. But you get the idea. He doesn't mind what he's going to be drinking. He's not bothered about that. So it's something, and yes, okay, you could say anything here, but in English you wouldn't really say he would like anything to drink. No, he would like something to drink, yeah? So that's the idea there. What about что-то? Right, so this is when we don't know or we don't remember anything about the something. For example, она что-то сказала. Она что-то сказала. She said something. So we're talking about the past here, and whatever was said, we don't know. We just know that something was said. We know the fact. We know the idea that something was said, but what that something was, we have no idea about. It is unknown to us. So we're saying что-то. Similarly, они что-то знают. Они что-то знают. They know something. So the fact that they know is known by us, but what they know is unknown by us. I hope that's not too confusing, but I do think you get the idea. The actual something itself is unknown to us as the speaker. Now, what I'm about to say is probably the key to understanding the difference between что-то and что-нибудь, and you won't find this anywhere else on the internet. I can almost guarantee that. Now, this is quite a general, crude rule, so don't take this too seriously, but it will definitely help you. Very generally, we use что-то with the past and the present, whilst we use что-нибудь with the future or the immediate future. Why does this make sense? Well, think about it. Что-то is used when we don't know or we don't remember detail about the something. So if we're trying to remember this thing that we're trying to remember, it has happened in the past, right? So for you to remember about something, it must have taken place already in the past. Or indeed, it can be in the present, but we just don't know about it. Whilst with что-нибудь, again, we are showing our indifference to what this something is or will be. Now, why can't you use что-нибудь in the past? Well, whether we care or not, whether we are bothered or not about the something is irrelevant because it's happened already. It's taken place in the past and we can't change that. So if we go again and say, он что-то сказал, he said something, we can't say он что-нибудь сказал. That would mean that we don't care or we don't mind what he has said, which is clearly nonsense. He said it already and we can't go back into the past. We can't take a time machine and go back and change that and say, look, what he's about to say is it's not important to me. It's already happened. So in the past, you can never say что-нибудь. I'm pretty sure that applies most of the time, probably 100% of the time. Don't say что-нибудь in the past. Use что-то, and you can also use что-то in the present. If whatever is going on, whatever something is being spoken about is unknown to you as the speaker. So an example sentence in the present, здесь чего-то не хватает. Здесь чего-то не хватает. Now notice here we've already declined что-то in the genitive case to get чего-то. Хватать means to be enough, and so не хватает means not to be enough or to be missing. So there's something missing here. Now again, you're not saying that you don't mind what this missing thing is. Maybe you're an artist, I don't know, or you're editing a photo or video and you think, right, there's something not quite right here, there's something missing, we really need to add some kind of finishing touch, but you're not sure what this could be. It's unknown to you, it's missing information, you're trying to work out what possibly you could do to make it better, and so you say чего-то or что-то. Yes, you can't say чего-нибудь, здесь чего-нибудь не хватает, that's not right. But you can say что-нибудь in this situation, when you're using an imperative. Дайте мне, пожалуйста, что-нибудь подешевле. Дайте мне, пожалуйста, что-нибудь подешевле. Can you give me something a bit cheaper, please? So again, you're giving an order to someone, and so therefore you are kind of referring to the immediate future. Yes, with an imperative, the action that you're telling someone to do, the command that you're giving, the action of that will take place literally in a few moments, or it could be in the very far future. But the key point is that it's not happening now. So you do have the choice, you do have the decision as to what this something will be. So you can express your interest or indeed lack of interest. So I would like something cheaper. Again, you don't mind what this is going to be necessarily. You would like some kind of product or whatever you're looking for at a cheaper price. That's the key idea there. Давай о чем-нибудь другом поговорим. Давай о чем-нибудь другом поговорим. Let's talk about something else. So again, this is really an imperative. Let's is an imperative. Let's talk about something else. Now again, you're not bothered what this topic is, you just want to change the topic. That's the key point here. Whatever you're going to start talking about now, you don't care about that. You would just like to change the topic. And again, you're referring to the future here. This is a future tense scenario, even though you're using the imperative. Whilst with что-то, it's only a past tense scenario, or indeed it can be the present tense as well. So do get used to that idea. It's not perfect and it doesn't work all the time, as I said, but it will definitely help. Now, where do кое-что and что-либо come in? So, if you do want to say that something is unknown to you and you want to use it in a future tense scenario after all, then кое-что can be used as well. Now, that's not to say that you can't use что-то. You can. That does go against what I've just said, but generally as a rule, you don't tend to say что-то in the future, and you would probably substitute it with кое-что instead. So, an example sentence. Я хочу кое-что сказать. Я хочу кое-что сказать. I would like to say something. Now, you know what you're going to say, but everybody else whom you're speaking to does not know. And so, again, here you're conveying this idea of information being unknown. This time, it's the listeners who don't know, but you do. Or indeed, not necessarily. You might not know either. You would just like to say something. Now, you can't say here that you're not bothered about what you're going to say, because after all, you're in control of what you're saying. So you would say, я хочу что-то сказать, that is fine, but probably more commonly you will hear, я хочу кое-что сказать. And I have to say that кое-что adds this slight element of surprise maybe, or something being concealed, or some kind of withdrawn information, this slight element of intrigue. With кое-что we have this element of intrigue. There we go. Whilst with что-либо, it's a case of it just being more formal and more official. So in all sorts of documents, in formal speeches and presentations, people might say что-либо instead of что-нибудь. So you might see a sign somewhere or some kind of law or rule. Запрещено что-либо говорить. Запрещено что-либо говорить. It's forbidden to say anything. Now, it's interesting here that in English we are actually translating it as anything. And so, yes, you could probably say that что-либо does mean, in some cases, anything. To be honest, to make this sound less formal, you would just remove the что-либо completely. And you can just say запрещено говорить. It's not allowed to speak. There we go. But as I did say, кое-что and что-либо aren't used that often, so you don't need to worry about them too much. Now, in relation to declensions, as we saw already, we can have чего-то, but also чему-то, чем-то, and then with что-нибудь we can have the same, чему-нибудь, чего-нибудь, чем-нибудь, and so on and so on. So the то-нибудь, кое, and либо particles which are attached to the pronoun don't change. They don't get declined. It's just the pronoun itself that undergoes a declension. So let's have a look at this in a bit more detail. So here are the possible pronouns that you can turn into indefinite pronouns. Что, what, кто, who, где, where, когда, when, как, how, куда or откуда, to where or from where, какой, which, чей, which is whose, and сколько, which is how much. So I'm now going to show you a list of almost all the possible translations of these indefinite pronouns. So with что you can get чему-то, чего-то, чем-то, чем-то, чему-нибудь, чего-нибудь, чем-нибудь, чем-нибудь, and so on. With кто you can get кому-то, кого-то, ком-то. I'm not going to go through all of it. Now the key point is that with где, когда, как, куда, откуда, and сколько, you can't perform a declension. It doesn't make sense, does it? You can't decline words like когда, when. So with когда, it's literally just когда-то or когда-нибудь. Как-то, как-нибудь. Куда-то, куда-нибудь, откуда-то, откуда-то-нибудь. Right? Now, какой is interesting because this can also change by agreement with gender, right? So you can have declensions for all the cases and also agreements for all the genders. So this one's actually quite a long list, and I haven't included everything. Then with чей, these declensions are used almost never. Чему-то, чему-нибудь, and so on. I have to say, when I first saw this list, I was surprised to even see these words there because I don't think I've ever heard these being used. But I think, yes, it would make sense in some cases to use them, but you really don't need to remember these. And then сколько, сколько-то, сколько-нибудь. Right, how do we translate these into English and what is the difference? Что-то, что-нибудь, you know, is something. With кто, it's someone, somewhere, sometime, somehow, to or from somewhere, some, but then, you know, we translate какой as which. Doesn't quite work when we make it indefinite, so we just say some, someone's, and then some amount. Okay? So again, if you say кому-то in the dative case, or indeed in the nominative case, кто-то, that means you don't know who this person is, who this someone is, you don't remember, or it's just unknown to you. Кто-нибудь or кому-нибудь, again, you are showing that you don't care who this person will be. Okay, you're showing your indifference. That's it. Right, let's have a look at some example sentences, and this hopefully should clear everything up completely. So, here's our first one. Он занимается чем-то очень сложным. Он занимается чем-то очень сложным. Заниматься is the verb which means to be occupied with, to do, to practice, and it has loads of different meanings in Russian, and we don't really have a version in English. He's just up to something, and he's up to something difficult. Чем-то очень сложным. So remember that заниматься is followed with the instrumental case. So again, we don't know what he's up to, but we know that he's up to something. That's why we say чем-то. Ты кого-нибудь здесь знаешь? Ты кого-нибудь здесь знаешь? Do you know anyone here? So, кого-нибудь is used to show that we don't mind who this is. The fact is, do you know people here? Is there any person here at all that you know? So basically this question is being asked to show, well, are you completely new here? Are you friends? Have you met any of these people before? That's what we're interested in. Are you not a complete outsider in this room or in this place or whatever? So, do you know anyone here at all? Давайте где-нибудь встретимся завтра. Давайте где-нибудь встретимся завтра. Let's meet up somewhere tomorrow. Now, again, you don't mind where this somewhere will be. You just want to meet up. Okay, you can decide where you're going to meet up later. You first need to establish whether the other person is okay to meet up or not. And then where that will be, you don't mind, and probably the other person doesn't mind either. That can be decided afterwards. So, can we meet up tomorrow? Когда-то давно я играл в футбол. Когда-то давно я играл в футбол. Now, in English, we can't really turn the pronoun when into an indefinite form, some when or sometime. We don't really say that, but in Russian you can, and it means something like a long time ago. Now, this is where my explanation with что-то or когда-то indeed being used in the past tense scenario and что-нибудь or когда-нибудь being used in the future tense scenario now all comes together and makes sense. Когда-то means in the past, a long time ago or previously. Yeah, so this sentence means a long time ago, in the distant past maybe, I used to play football. Now, когда-нибудь means sometime in the future, someday, right? Or once. Okay, no, not once, but someday in the future, right? So this unknown, this vague idea of, I don't know when, but, give it a few years' time, or I don't know, it might be a few months' time, but it will happen at some point. So again, we're using нибудь with future tense scenarios and то in past tense scenarios, okay? The next sentence. Мы кое-как смогли сделать. Мы кое-как смогли сделать. Now, кое, again, is our synonym for то. So here we could also say мы как-то это смогли сделать. And this would mean somehow. We somehow managed to do it. So you can use both кое-как and как-то, but there is just a very subtle difference in shade of meaning between кое-как and как-то. Okay, that's really hard to grasp, and it only comes with loads of practice. And to be honest, I have to say, probably non-natives will never be able to understand the difference. But if you do use one and not the other, no one's probably going to even notice because it still means the same thing. And I probably should have told you this earlier. Don't worry about it too much. If you get что-либо and что-нибудь mixed up, or in fact что-то and что-нибудь mixed up, it's not going to lead to misunderstanding as such. Maybe in some certain cases, but generally, if you do get the two confused when you're speaking, that's fine. People understand what you mean. It's just that it will sound off and it might sound wrong and not quite right. But if you're just trying to communicate something, if you're just trying to relay some kind of information, then it's fine if you get it wrong. But if you're looking for, speaking eloquently or in standard proper Russian, then you do need to understand the difference. Anyway, let's have a look at the next sentence. Откуда-то дует. Откуда-то дует. Дует comes from the verb дуть, which means to blow, and when it's used impersonally, it means a draft. So there's a draft coming from somewhere. It's blowing from somewhere, or wind is coming from somewhere. Again, откуда means from somewhere, okay? And you don't know where the draft is coming from. That's why you're saying откуда-то. You have no idea where it's coming from. You can feel, yes, you can feel the breeze, but you don't know where it's coming from. У тебя есть какие-нибудь интересные книги? У тебя есть какие-нибудь интересные книги? Do you have any interesting books? Do you happen to have any interesting books? Now, again, here you don't mind what these books will be. You just want something interesting to read. And so, yeah, just give me any book. I don't mind. I'd just like to read something exciting. That's the meaning. That's the idea being conveyed here. Okay. Here's the next one. Там лежит чье-то пальто. Там лежит чье-то пальто. Someone's cloak or someone's coat is lying around over there. Someone's. We don't know whom this coat or cloak belongs to. So that's why it's чье-то. Okay? You can't not be bothered about whose cloak this, what person this cloak belongs to. It belongs to someone, definitely. You can't have a say in that. You don't know whom it belongs to. That's why it's то. All right? Now, the last one for today. Он попросил у нее сколько-то рублей. Он попросил у нее сколько-то рублей. He asked for her for a certain amount of rubles, an unknown amount of rubles. X rubles, right? That's why it's то. And because сколько is a quantity word, everything has to be in the genitive case. So рублей is the genitive of рубли. And it's one word that you really do need to remember if you're going to be looking at the genitive case, because it's used all the time in shops and restaurants and when you're out and about. So there we go. We don't know how many rubles exactly, but we know that he borrowed some from her, or at least asked to borrow from her. If you don't care, you just need some money. I really don't know why you would want money and not be bothered about how much, but you would say сколько-нибудь. You probably wouldn't use it with money. You could use it with some other quantity. Сколько-нибудь, I don't know, flour maybe, and you just want to make some cake or some pies or whatever, and you just need some flour. You're not bothered how much you're going to make or how many dumplings or whatever you're making there will be at the end. You would just like to make them. It's just the fact of making that you're bothered about. How much specifically, I don't care. So that's why you would say сколько-нибудь in that particular case. So there we go, that's it for today. I hope this all makes sense. I can't really go into much more detail. This is probably as deep as it gets. But do feel free to ask any questions below in the comments. You can also send us an email, and all the details for social media are below. Thank you very much for your attention. Good luck, see you next time, and goodbye.